Good morning, grand rising. Blessings to each of you. Hello. It's good to be back with you today. It's Friday once again, and I'm Charlie Riverman here on the west coast of Maine in the United States, bringing forward the messages that I receive um, as part of my journey and a part of all of our journey, and honoring each and every one of you as we move through these times of um, amazing challenge. And it's really hard to put into words for all of us to understand. But I want you to really and truly know that it's within that um, possibility of becoming who we truly are, and restoring peace and balance to the world that we come together. And so I believe I'm live, but I don't see anything happening. That's okay. That happens to me all the time. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the flow. I'm seeing that it says live. Amanda, thank you for confirming my liveliness. I never know. It's always, this technology is always trying to baffle what who I am, what I do. So that's okay. It's all good. So blessings and joy to each of you as we move through this. And today's topic has been, as it came to me this morning, was embracing our future self. And I had to write it down like twice so I would remember it when I really awakened into this body. Embracing our future self. And so last week, I apologize for not being here, but I was in a medicine hoop ceremony with Grandmother Sasa for the weekend. So I was unable to be here with all of you, but know that I held you all in prayers in the circle, and may you receive those benefits of that journey. So this was a gentle message from me this morning of awakening and embracing my future self. And this week has been leading up to it. And perhaps the medicine hoop has assisted in that, and in letting go of a lot of the negativity and the negative thoughts, and knowing that there are people in this world we can gather with who are really healers, and we are all healers. It's just many of us have not had an opportunity to practice the healing that each one of us can do. And so I speak to you as healers, as to people who really have more potential than you've ever been told. And I experienced this because of my death experience. So it's a lot easier perhaps for me than other people. But the reality is that we all have this ability to shift and change not only our thinking, but our way of life, our way of interacting with life, uh, interacting with each other and Mother Earth. And what we're seeing right now is a collective trauma around the world. And it's not just your trauma or my trauma, it's a collective of generations and generations of humanity that kept drifting away, if you will, from the original, I call it the original blueprint of humanity. And I don't really know what that is. I just put a name on it that I can understand. And I encourage you to put a name on it that you understand, because it's in coming together with a sense of origin, a sense of who you are before all that's going on in the world right now existed, and knowing that on another level you chose to be here as a part of this evolutionary process. And it's not just an evolution of humanity, it's an evolution of life. It's an evolution of the expression of that which we call God, or we call the quantum field. We can put any name we want to on it. It's the evolution of life, really, and many forms. And if we look around the world at how many forms of life do we actually have on the planet, and I couldn't even fathom a number. I mean, from the tiny microscopic um, germs to elephants, and at one time we had dinosaurs. So the possibilities are endless. And this is what the world now has done to us. The world that we as humans have taken over and created stories that have diminished our ability to imagine. And to imagine means imaging. What do we image? What do we see? What do we see from our mind's eye, not from our physical eyes? What can we envision? What can we broadcast before us to say, ah, that is wonderful. That is beautiful. That is something that I feel connected to, and attract ourselves to it, not attracting it to us. We need to attract ourselves to that vision of beauty, that vision of glory, that vision um, of being part of the total environmental experience. And I'm not just talking about physical environment, I'm talking about the energetic environment. So this may be going a little too deep into this, but what is stopping us from all of this is a collective trauma of humanity. And this is the message that's been coming up for me this week. Well, it's been coming up for a long time, and that's what I work to try to release, is the collective trauma of humanity and the damage that has been created to Mother Earth as a result of that. And just this past week, we had an oil line that burst in the Pacific Ocean. It's destroyed and killed wildlife on the coast of California, this beautiful coast of California. And yet we still have people who, we know that we have technology that can provide power in a much cleaner way, and they refuse to do it. They hang on to this old stuff because it makes them wealthy. And they've spent all this money. And we live in a world now where money and corporations and banks are more important than humans and animals and life. And this is what is causing um, our present collective trauma, because we feel that there's no escape from it. We feel like victims. We feel we're being perpetrated against, and when we speak out, we're chastised, or we're put in jail, or we're squirted with water hoses, or whatever the drama is. So this is what today is really about, is really how do we embrace our future self, and how do we see ourselves in the future. And the reason that's important is because it's like in any of our lives, if you don't have a goal to look forward to, you kind of flounder around and you make your way through. That's not a bad thing. I'm not judging anybody, but this is what it is if we set goals and we look to the future and say, what is the potential of the future for me? What is the potential of the future for all humanity? Then we realize that, wow, I'm not just here in this moment, but I'm part of the past and I'm part of the future. And what we're doing in that moment is expanding our energetic frequency, if you will, to a multi-dimensional experience. And this is not in my show notes, so I'm amazed that it's coming true. But anyway, it's all part of the story this morning. And so as we move through these these dramas of separation, I will call it. It's uh, leading to a shift within all human beings to become more balanced. Because this is what the distortion does. The distortion actually diminishes our balance, and we come in and out of focus, and we become unstable. And as we become unstable, then we have a lesser opportunity to project into our future self. I hope I'm making some sense. And if I'm not, just sing along with me. Hopefully, it will get clearer. So, the message that I wrote was I ask everyone to think for just a moment as to what that might look like for each of us to find our harmonic balance and heart resonance and restoring itself without struggle of acceptance. So, most of us now, myself included, find these moments where I don't feel accepted, or I feel different, or I'm out of the flow somehow, and it becomes uh, a moment of questioning myself all the time. Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this up? Is this down? And not trusting our own hearts. And yet, the heart is the purest energy within our body. The heart is the first organ to come into life before we're even born. The heart is the center, energy center. It's the vortex, it's the toroidal field, which everything else resonates with. And the heart is really an amazing, not only um, tool or an amazing organ, it is the essence of our life. It revolves around the heart. And I always, always look at people and they're afraid of this, they're afraid of that, they're afraid of. I says, if you don't have a heart and it's not beating, you don't exist here. It's that simple. It's that basic. And what we need to do is nourish our hearts right now. So when we look at diseases, we look at everything, the only thing you die from is your heart stopping. It's a third grader can understand this. The only thing you die from is your heart stopping. Why aren't we protecting our hearts? Why aren't we coming into our hearts and honoring the power of that to keep us alive, to keep us moving forward, to keep us thinking, to keep us doing everything? Yesterday in the Global Heart Team, which is a weekly meditation, I always write something, and the person who runs it, Grace, says, always gives us an idea of what we're going to be meditating with. And the message was the creative power of your personal heart. And so I always tap into the higher self and come through with a message. And this was the message from yesterday. In the quiet and stillness, we are alone with the heartbeat in its receiving and sending energy. Perhaps it has a message for us that is beyond our imagination and needs to be repeated many times. For it cannot be heard over the brain. The message I heard today was welcome. Welcome home, beloved one. It is from this heart energy that all you know and understand has been created, both positive and negative. For when you are not in alignment with the rhythm of your beating heart, great moments of distortion are present. Please Listen for the soft voice of your heart and know that it is your choice to make and the way you create all positive possibilities. So allow those words to settle and know that it's through your heart and the soft voice of the heart speaking to you that we create our positive possibilities. The other side of that is when we listen to the brain. The brain is going to throw up all the garbage that it knows. It has the knowledge, it has the recordings of all the negatives, and it will throw those out at us. But if we trust the heart, those negative thoughts have no real power. And I can say it 1,000 different ways, but today this is the way it's appearing and coming through me. So this week also, there's been the word benevolence has come through me in a couple of meetings. We always, not always, all groups, but sometimes, what is your word for the day? Or do you have a word that is coming up for you? And benevolence came up for me. And it's not a word I use very often. I barely understand it in its wholeness. I understand more now. But that was the message, benevolence. And so somebody asked me to explain it, I think of it as kindness. It's the ability to give and share with others. It's, a sense of I have something that I have to offer. So my benevolence is part of my benevolence is doing these talks. They're not just about me, they're about sharing with you what's going through me, and perhaps you're feeling the same thing, and it'll encourage you to um, maybe do something differently that is better in alignment with you. But I don't do this as a profession. I don't do this, this is who I am. And so when we think of the word benevolence, some of the synonyms are courtesy, favor, grace, mercy, service, friendliness, unselfishness, goodwill, many more along that line. But as you see the waves of that um, ocean wave coming into the shore, it's very gentle. It's a very gentle flow. And when we look around the world, we're not seeing a very gentle flow anymore. We're seeing static, and we're seeing abruptness, and we're seeing misuse and destruction and power over, and all of these things that are very destructive. So benevolence is a building up of energy that's positive. This is what we need to do right now within ourselves in order to be that future self, is to start tapping into what do we see in the future as our ability to overshadow the selfishness, the greed, and the power that is not only destroying Mother Earth, but destroying humanity's future generations. And we owe it to the future generations. 7 generations back and 7 generations forward is, I think, a common way of looking at this, that we're not just here and everything we do is all about us. Yet that's what the world right now appears to be focused on. They have this very myopic vision of, oh, it's now. Well, it's happening now, but it's not relating to now. This moment is affecting the future. Once again, how do we embrace ourselves, the future self, and draw and attract that future self into the present moment and begin to act and begin to share the wisdom and the knowledge of that future self with each other right now. I know some people think that I'm just totally crazy when I talk to them like this, and most of them are not on a spiritual path or an enlightening path. They're normal people, everyday people. My beloved is a very ordinary person. When I start talking, she can't hear that. She shuts that down. But her heart is so open and pure that she doesn't have to understand this. And we know there are people in our lives that are like that. Some of them call them the Pollyannas. They just live in this world of love and care and yeah, they know the bad news is on the TV and it's right in front of them and it doesn't affect them at all. They don't tune into it. They don't allow it. It of course, things that are sad or horrible are affect them, but they're not affected in a way that it diminishes who they are or their ability to love each other, love themselves, and to love the future generations and the backward generations. I admire those people. I admire them. And if you're one of them, I admire you because my life has been a struggle to come to this place, this center place that I'm in now. And I had to die to do this. And that's been the gift of my near-death experiences. It'll be 30 years. And that's been my journey, is to bring this all together within me to understand and help others see the vision, plant the seeds. We don't have to be the leaders, but somebody has to plant the seeds or you're not going to get the fruit or the vegetables that you need to sustain yourself and everyone else around you. So, again, this is really a message today about how do you see yourself as a future being, and whether your future is 50 years or 50 months doesn't matter because each of us have something to offer in that time frame. And the word benevolence is really all about kindness and sharing, and it's about goodwill. It's about knowing that from our hearts we can make a difference in somebody else's life, and it doesn't cost us. We think in the world of cost. How much is this going to cost me? There is no cost because the value isn't in something that's tangible. The power and energy of who you are is priceless. That gift you give of kindness, that gift you give of compassion is worth far more than the dollar aspect or the whatever gift it is, the physical. And this is what we've lost. This is what has, in some ways, been taken away from us. This is what has been stuffed into the container we're in right now. And we can't express it because we have to follow rules that are made by leaders who are not following the rules. They make the rules for other people, not for themselves. And when we witness that, we don't necessarily understand it in the moment, but it wears us down. and it wears us down and wears us down. And the more we become within ourselves, the more we close in around our heart because we want to protect our heart. And this is just a natural reaction. The body knows that without the heart, it does not exist. And it shuts down. It protects itself, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. I have no scientific background of all of this. I know what happens in my body. I know when I feel shut down. When I'm shut down and I'm closed, I have to stop and say, what is causing that? And I have power over that. And this is what I want to tell every one of you is you have power within your heart and over your heart to not only protect it, but to keep it open. If you can shut it down, you can keep it open. It's just, do you dare to? Do you dare to become your future self? I'm not talking about another lifetime, or although that happens, but I'm talking about right here, right now, in this physical body. Do you dare to become your future self? Give yourself that dare. Say it out loud. I dare you to become your future self, or I dare to become myself, future self, blah, blah, blah. It's powerful. It's powerful. And it's all about shifting our energy and the focus of our energy from here to here. This is the receiver and the generator that will organize, and it's like the post office. It receives the mail and it sends the mail. And it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's doing what it's doing. Unless it gets, off balance or restructured by external means or internal diseases. This is who we are. We are that heart. And that's was the first beating of the heart was our first physical existence. And it was still in the womb. And science tells us that the heart actually generates more energy in our bodies and sends more signals than our brain does. I didn't study that, but that's what I've been reading. And yet we hold this as the rule and guide of our life. The shift to the future has to come from here, from our hearts. And it's recognizing within ourselves that what are we doing? What are we contributing to the negativity of the world versus what are we contributing to the positivity of the world? And to recognize that the negativity can be stopped, that we have the power over negativity. Negativity comes out of the field of chaos, out of the field of possibilities. We were created through positivity. However you want to look at the desire to create, when you want to create something, you always find joy in creating it. What is that joy? Where is that joy in you right now? How much joy are you feeling? It's sort of the alarm system. If we're not feeling joy, then we're not being who we truly are. It doesn't mean we're not going to be sad over lost ones or definitely physical illnesses, or there's always going to be sadness. But joy is that desire to wake up and live and be and experience the best of the best. We all deserve that. We all are that. We all can share that. And as we realize that when we're not in that moment, we're contributing to the negativity of the world, even if it's just a tiny little bit. And remember, if 8 billion people just took a little bit of negativity, just a little teeny bit out of their lives, what would the shift look like? When we think of ourselves as individuals, oh, I'm helpless. I don't make a difference. But if everybody shifts their consciousness just that much, we shift the world. Because we are a very powerful part of the energy of Mother Earth. And this has been the big travesty, is that science and knowledge and power and governments and all of this have recognized that as the power to be the supreme being on this planet and play God, thinking that they might have a better way. But when we look at it, we realize it's a better way for them, but everybody else suffers. So if you are those who have all that abundance, think about becoming more benevolent with it. How can you share that with the world? What am I doing? I'm sharing what comes through me from my spirit guides, my future self, my past self, to help you understand that you are not alone, that you are part of this beautiful tapestry of life. And each one of you have an important role. I'm not here to know what that is. It's for you to discover within you. It's for you to deepen into your own heart and ask within the inner chambers of your heart, what does that mean for me? So remember that as we allow ourselves to receive, okay, my light went out. Oh, there you go. Okay, it's not going to come back on. It wants to stay up. That's okay. So remember that as we allow ourselves to receive more peace, light, and love, it strengthens our abilities to align with the future, with our future. And it does it in a very gentle way. And it's not about, all about me. It's just that when we tap into that, it allows us to share it with each other, and to do it without feeling guilty or without feeling being used or whatever. And yes, there are all kinds of situations we can get into. So we have to be awake and aware and cautious and not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. And you know when those are happening. And you know, and you can read that in people even before you have the conversation. because your body senses it. Trust what your body is telling you. When you feel sick, you want some medicine, right? Well, the same thing with relationships. If you're in a bad relationship, it wants some peace. Follow it. Don't try to make it something that it will never be. Learn to accept that there are certain things and certain people that are going to be a, a dark contrast. That's what they're saying, a dark contrast to who you are. And when you're engaged in those relationships with people, and I don't mean just intimate, even just in business, etc., walking down the street, make way for that. Become aware of how and what is affecting you. Awaken. Awaken to this higher self that you are, to this future self, because it exists simultaneously within us. And right now, we're receiving the opportunity to tap into it because the world, Mother Earth, the universe, needs us to come back into it. And so the last of my show notes really are about rising into our hearts and love, making the choices that align with that part of ourselves, and know that no matter where we go or what we do, it's important to um, be in the flow. It's important to trust what we're feeling and know that we're not alone. As they say, call it 8 billion people need to awaken. And if we start with just this group of 20 or 30 people or whatever it is that show up or listen to this, it begins the effect. We are that powerful that envisioning the ants. The ants, how many ants does it take? And yet every little tiny ant doing what is called to be done, it thrives. We need to stop just living at the bare minimum and thrive and encourage thriving in others. So as I come to a close this morning, I just scan down through each of you here being with us and being with me and my guides and say thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you and interested in um, listening to those who are going to tell you something about yourself that you already know, but you just need to hear it from somebody else. The little Archangel Michael card here that I pulled last night for my kirtan show that I do. Bask in the wonder of life. Go deep. Soar high. Follow your love, and the joy of fulfillment will be yours. And since 11/11 has been coming up for me lately, I have cards that are called 11/11 alignment cards. They're no longer in print. And the woman, Zira Starchild of On, commented one time to me. She wrote me a letter saying, thank you for sharing these. And I honor her because they were an important part of my life years ago. And the card is the yin and yang, giving and receiving, universal flow. This is what we're trying to achieve. The mind and the body, giving and receiving in perfect balance and flow. And the message on the back is I give, I receive, I receive, I give in perfect balance. And that's what it's about. That's what it is all about. And it's the future. It's the future of benevolence. And we have to come back into harmony with that word, which most of us don't use. I have a little spirit that plays with the lights here. And at first I wanted to get rid of the spirit, and now I find this spirit amusing. So, with that said, I love you. I thank you. I respect you. I am you. You are me. We are unity. And may the spirit of unity, the spirit of love, the one heart, one earth, one humanity, one of all of us, be present and shine brilliantly this week as you roll through and think about your future self. How do you embrace that future self? Bless you all. Thank you. Be here again next Friday, and may you have many blessings and many lights go off. I love you all. Bless you and thank you.